Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today we're going to start by trimming up this rosemary and repotting it. This is my wife's rosemary, and it was grown from a small cutting about the size of this, and it's 3 years old now. And today I'm going to prune it up. My wife wants it more compact so it takes up less space in her greenhouse. I'm going to start by pulling out some of the weeds. There's some grass growing in here. Like that. Over here is some clover growing. That came out with a big taproot. I'll save that. My wife might want to plant that somewhere else. And then over on this side, there's some catnip. I believe the catnip is a type of mint. I'll see if I can pull that out. That came out with roots and all in the soil. So I've put all that in a bucket of water. It looks like there's a few cuttings in here that didn't make it. So that part is alive and doing well. And this part is alive and doing well. A few more weeds at the back here. On this rosemary, you can see how it's been growing towards the light over here, and it almost looks like a windblown tree. I want to get kind of all the plant within the perimeter of the pot so nothing's sticking out over the edges, so it doesn't take up as much space. So all this kind of, the tree that's over on this side is also planted on that side of the pot. So I'm going to move this plant over to this side of the pot and try and keep some of that foliage within the confines of the pot. So that's why I'm repotting it. This pot it's in is plenty big enough. I'm going to put it in a slightly smaller pot here. There's a look at the two pots together. I'm going to prune the rosemarys down before I repot them. So it's always safe on a tree to, keep some of the foliage on the branches. If you hard prune a rosemary back to like bare wood, it might recover fine or it might wither away and die. It might sucker up from the roots or something. So it's always good to keep green foliage on your branches. It's a nice safety measure. So we're only going to prune it back so far because I want to keep some green foliage on here. If I hard pruned it right back, which I would probably do if I was growing this as a bonsai, it's a little risky. And so with your wife's plants, it's always to be safe than sorry. So that's the reason I'm taking it back quite conservatively to some green foliage and then relocating this plant over to this side of the pot. And maybe changing the planting angle so more of the green foliage is within the pot parameter. I'll place the rosemary on my spinning tree bonsai turntable. I'm looking at the overall styling now. So I've got a fairly vertical trunk. Yeah, it's again, this isn't supposed to be a bonsai, so I'm just going to kind of prune it back. And I'll start, just keeping it quite long, and then maybe I'll prune it back even further. So there comes some cuts. My other rosemary bonsai I had, they were doing fine in the basement over winter, and then the temperature went really cold and they died, which was too bad. I was very sad to lose them. That was that little kind of tray I had with moss, and I think there's 3 rosemarys growing on kind of a clump style. However, we'll get some more going with these cuttings. I do like rosemary as a bonsai. They're a temperate tree, so they need a cool period in winter, but not so cold that, too much cold and they'll die. I'm gonna go right back to here. Some of these branches are quite long and there's no foliage. Well, this one has a bit back here. Actually, it has some here, so I'll take it off there. And this one even has a bit down here, so I can take that off. And this one could come back to here. So that's really shortening this side of the rosemary bush now. It's really looking good. I'll come in with my scissors now and just tidy up a few of these tips. Getting it even a little more compact. That's looking pretty good there. And then there's this big branch that comes off. I think it's from the same plant. Possibly, I don't know. I see some ants in here. It's coming off this direction and it needs some pruning back too. So we're going to come right back to here. That's looking pretty good there. And then there's this big branch that comes off. I think it's from the same plant. Possibly, I don't know. I see some ants in here. It's coming off this direction and it needs some pruning back too. So we're going to come right back to here. And to here. Yeah, it's quite a bit more compact now. And I'll bring this back and it smells beautiful. Nice. If this were a bonsai, you know, I pruned it here. I would wait till I get more back budding on this branch and then I would reduce it even further to get rid of these long straight sections with no taper or movement to them. You know, even this trunk line is it doesn't change in taper and it's very straight without any movement. It's not straight, but there's no abrupt changes of direction in it. It's very sweeping. So there's some odd branches here, you know, it goes out here and then 90 degrees. But, you know, it's not a bonsai, so this is just a kitchen herb. Maybe someday it'll become a bonsai, I don't know, but... Alright, let's get it out of the pot next. I'll put all these cuttings in water. There's a look at all the cuttings. I put them in a bucket of water with the catnip and the clover down there somewhere. I put some wood chips in the bottom to cover the drainage holes, and then I'll add some used bonsai soil. I'm going to use the soil from my kapok or kapok trees. They died once again this winter. I let the temperature get too low. So they can't go below about plus 10 degrees Celsius, maybe plus 8 minimum. Anything lower than that, they die. So the first year they died, I thought it was because they must have frozen the greenhouse. The second year, they definitely didn't freeze. It was -8 at the lowest and they died. And they looked perfectly healthy before that. So they definitely can't take the lower temperatures. So I was sad to lose them once again, but I learned something from it. I now know, you know, +8 is the absolute lowest they can go. So once again, I was getting the roots sorted out on these trees and they were just getting nice. Ah, well. All right, let's get this in the Rosemary's pot. So a lot of bonsai techniques can cross over to regular gardening. Your soils, conditioning your soil so it has more drainage. Pruning techniques to keep your shrubs and your herbs in nice shape. Your hedges and your bushes, everything. Okay. So there were a lot of roots in the bottom of this kapok planting. It's too bad they died. That was sad to see them go. Sometimes with trees, you know, it takes a few trials before you learn how to take care of them. I'm the same with desert roses. I've killed quite a few of them. But now, you know, I've been doing a lot of, watching a lot of videos from We Are the Bonsai Supply. Reading up on them. And I think I now have the knowledge to keep them alive. So I'm going to try another desert rose in the future. Okay, that's plenty of soil in this pot. It's time to get the rosemary out of the pot now. So I did see some ants crawling on the surface, so I suspect there might be an ant nest in here. All right, so here I go. I'm going to tip it on its side, pull gently. There it is. Get it on the turntable here. We've had a lot of rain lately, and you can see this soil is holding too much moisture. It's very, very wet, and it'll rot the roots out for sure. Rosemary's like it a little more on the drier side. So a good kind of coarse soil like bonsai soil with frequent watering will keep the rosemary really happy. There's some more grass going out the back. So I'll get out my root rake. And I'll start raking out the soil here. Raking out the roots. See what's going on here with this kind of twin trunk. If it's two or one. There's another branch back here that's died off. It's dead. That might have been a bunch of cuttings stuck together. I don't know. Yeah, the soil's far too wet. It'll like the new bonsai soil. Yeah, the roots aren't even going into much of the soil because it's just too wet. If it was a little drier, the roots would be growing out into all parts of the soil, filling the pot, but it's just not. It's just sitting there. It's too wet. I think the roots get too rotted. Definitely some ants in here. Yeah, this soil is more like mud actually. But I do see there's a bit of bonsai soil on the bottom. You can see there must have been a drainage layer of bonsai soil. So maybe that saved the plant from, you know, rotting all the roots. So I'll get a little more of the soil out, then I'll take it over and wash the roots. So it's definitely all one plant. You can see this branch comes really skinny, and then it dropped down roots, and then beyond the roots it's really thick. So it's kind of like an aerial root on a ficus. It drops down, and then the thicker part over here thickens up. Excuse me, thickens up. There's ants crawling all out of here. So I don't know where the ants were living, but somewhere in here. They're all over my hand now. Okay, I think I'm ready to wash the roots. All right, into the water it goes. Well, that gets it a lot cleaner. There's actually a good trunk on it here. Maybe if I get all those cuttings growing, I can keep this and develop this into a bonsai. That would be nice. And then my wife would be quite happy with the cuttings, because all she wants it for is the leaves. So, okay, that's got it. Oh, this is breaking off here. Not very strong. All right, well, we'll remove this and plant this separately. I'll separate it over the bench there. I think that's got it. That's my neighbor's motorcycle you hear in the background. You think bonsai is an expensive hobby. Wait till you have to buy one of those. All right, I'm going to separate this branch now. Cut it off here, like that. And I can plant this separately. So yeah, this would make, you know, quite a nice upright tree. So I'll do a little root pruning. I'm going to get rid of the, really long ones. That's not bad there. Okay. And on this one, it's quite fibrous back here, so I'll take the root back to there. I'll leave the other one the same, or as it is. It's got a lot of fibrous roots there. And I'm sure something will develop over this side eventually. Okay, so they're ready for planting. I'm digging out a pocket to plant the trees in. Okay, so I've got my 2 trees here, and I was thinking maybe planting them kind of nesting against each other, kind of filling in this between where there's no branches on this side. Yeah, still ants crawling around. They must live inside the trunk or something. They're biting me too. So yeah, I think together like that. And then there's a lot of weight on this side of the tree, so I've got to push it to this side of the pot. So maybe take a bit more soil out here. Yeah. That's pretty good height. Most of the roots are in the soil. So I think that's good. I think I can start filling in the soil. Here's a look at the rosemary. So I'll start working the soil into the roots. I think the image of it looks fine. I think it looks like a more tree-like now. I might have to get some more soil to put on top also. So this has some sedum planted in it, which would look nice underneath the rosemary. It wouldn't matter if it got too high and started spilling over the edges, because this is just going to be used as a herb. So, and there's a bit of moss here I can put into it. So some good additions to the rosemary. And best of all, I got some soil here, which is good soil. It's just, maybe a year old. Got a few roots in it, but that's okay. All right, so I'll top up the pot here. I have a lot of repotting coming up. There'll be a lot of ficuses I'll be doing. My Schefflera, maybe my Sarissa. I had a sneak preview of the pot that's being made for my Sarissa. Very exciting. So I did go with a rectangular pot, and the size will be in between the old pot and the new pot. So it's pretty exciting. Well, I think that's going to do it. Let me work the soil into the roots a little more. All right, I'll get the soil worked into the roots. I mentioned in the other video I got my second shot for COVID, and I felt okay the first day. The second day, not so good. I had an upset stomach. I felt really tired. I had a headache. Just, and joints ached. It felt like I had the flu. It was kind of a horrible day yesterday. And it also poured rain all day yesterday. The power went out. We played Monopoly with candlelight. That was kind of fun. And then today, this morning, I went to the dentist, got my teeth cleaned, and oh man, that hurt. She really went at it. Right down to the gums. So, yeah, it's been a rough kind of last couple of days. But today I'm feeling a little better. I still feel my stomach's still a little upset. Not my usual vigorous self. But I'm sure by tomorrow I'll be fine. That's the way it was the first shot too. I felt really tired the first kind of day and a half. I'll give the rosemary a watering now, and I'll spin it around as I'm watering it so you can see it from all angles. So here I go. So it'll be pretty hard to overwater this rosemary now that it's in bonsai soil. I think it'll do much better. So the water's coming out the pot, but it's not running very clear yet. So I'm going to keep watering it. Clean the lip of the pot off here. Give it a misting or a watering of foliage. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. I think that's going to be really happy in this new pot. The water's running out nice and clear now too, so that's good. I hope this has kind of inspired you to start your own rosemary bonsai. A very practical bonsai. You can use it when you're cooking potatoes or whatever you use rosemary for. So I think it looks pretty good for you know, a plant that's not really supposed to be a bonsai. So I'll let it fill in and we'll come back and give it another pruning before this summer's out. The next step will be to get my wife out here and see what she thinks, get a reaction. All right, here comes my wife. What is she gonna think of it? Well,
it's smaller.
Smaller, yeah. More tree-like?
It's more, yeah, it looks pretty actually.
Yeah, it looks nice. I put a little bit of sedum in the bottom too.
Oh, okay.
So you can grow a pot of sedum and
yeah,
should look pretty nice.
It can still stay in the same window and everything. Like
yeah, you just got to rotate it around more so it's not all lopsided like it was. Is that from growing inside in a window?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there it is. It's in the sun. Repotted in bonsai soil so you can't overwater it.
Yeah, it looks very, very tree-like.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe rosemary is a tree.
I think it's more of a shrub.
Okay.
They can grow quite big. Yep, so there we go. It's done.
Good. Yeah, and I get the cuttings. So.
Yeah. Yep, the cuttings, they're all down here in water. Hopefully they'll root.
Yeah, this here,
Catnip.
I'll just toss this away. No one wants this, right?
I don't know, I thought you might want it.
Okay, I'll put it in the back and it can, yeah, it can grow if it wants to.
All right. And I think there clovers in there too.
Oh.
I saved that.
The clover, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, I guess the rosemary was a success. I'm going to get out those little baobab seeds and seedlings now and get those planted. Let's head to the greenhouse. I've got all these succulents back in the greenhouse because it just seems to rain once or twice a day. It's been doing that for a long, long time. So I'm keeping them, you know, on the dry side. Otherwise they'd just be, that soil just stay soaked all the time. So in here, I've got my baobabs right here. They're in this cloth. So I'll bring the wet cloth out to the bench and we'll see if we have some living seeds that I can plant. And I'm going to give each little seed its own pot. I think there's only 2 that germinated. But 2 is better than none. There it is there. You can see the green. Oh, there's 3. Okay. There's 3 in there. This is exciting. Okay. 3 have germinated. Oh, that's exciting. Okay. So I've got to get those into a pot. Wow. Awesome. I'm going to mix up some new bonsai soil for these baobabs. So I'll keep them covered, just loosely covered, until I get the soil mixed up. I got all my succulents moved out of the greenhouse, at least all the ones that were on the floor, and back out onto the benches because it looks like it'll be sunny, at least for today. Over here on the benches, I did an update the other day and I forgot to mention one tree back here, my black walnut, that I've never been successful in getting a black walnut to grow. So over here, I pulled up a black walnut from the backyard and I stuck it in this soil here and it wasn't doing anything and it didn't look very good and it was quite late summer. So I pulled it out of the soil and then I noticed, well, the roots still look okay on it. They didn't look like they were dead. So I put it back in the soil again, and sure enough, it sprouted. You can see down there, there's a little bit of green on it. So that's exciting. That's my first black walnut that I've ever been able to get to grow. We had another brutal rainstorm last night, and once again, the moss survived the root over rock. It didn't wash away, which is just amazing. I don't know how this stuff works, but yeah, I guess it's just like a really fine silt, like a clay almost, and it just doesn't wash away. And maybe it's because the moss holds it together. I don't know. But boy, it's gone through some really, really hard rains, and it's just looking fantastic. It's not washing away. It's doing the job, keeping the tree, all these roots alive, growing against the rock here. And it's just a thin layer on top. It's only, you know, a thin layer of this kind of clay-like mossy silt. It's from the cracks in the sidewalk. So I imagine like the fine dust would blow across the sidewalk and then settle in the cracks. So it must be like composed of really fine dust. And then the moss starts growing in it because it holds so much water. And it's just fantastic stuff for these root over rocks. And you can see the top of the tree is just fantastic. Good to see. So the reason I moved all my succulents out was to get to my safety Zorb back here and my perlite so I can mix up my new soil. Got my Montreal Canadian pants on. That'll give them good luck. Hopefully. I try and get about 50-50, but by volume. But, you know, it doesn't have to be exact. Whatever. All right. Let's get that mixed up. Okay. That looks good. I've got my 3 pots prepared here. Drainage screens in the bottom. Just because the holes are a little big, my soil will pass through, so I put a finer mesh in there. All right, let's get a base layer of soil in the pots now. Here I go. All right, let's have a look now. I think I said I had 3 of them. Yeah, 3 right here. Hopefully they're not embedded into the the wet cloth too much. Yeah, that one's not attached to the wet cloth at all. Okay, so that can go in the soil now. So I'll dig a little hole and I'll put it right in the middle. And the root is kind of, you know, a bit, doesn't go straight down or anything, but we'll see what it does in the future. Okay, and then I'll cover that up like that, just leaving the green poking out. And I will water it. Because that root is used to having moisture around it. Like that. Okay, so that one's planted. Keep that in the sun. Let's do number 2 now. So here comes little, now I think these 2 are growing into the cloth, which isn't good. So I gotta separate it somehow. Might have to look on the back side. Yeah, the roots have grown through the cloth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the cloth out and I'll just plant it with the cloth, and the cloth, that'll decompose over the years ahead. Except I'm not having much luck cutting here. Yeah, I'm not having much luck cutting. Now, Okay, so I've almost got it out. I've never had to do this before, but you know, you have to adapt to whatever happens. Okay, come on. Now I've got to separate the two little seedlings. So there's the roots sticking out the backside. Can you see those? So I've got to cut between them to separate them because I don't want the two growing in the one pot. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. I don't know if this is going to work. I hope it does. Okay, let's see if the root's intact. Yes, it is. I wonder if I could even pull it out from the cloth now. Maybe. I would risk breaking the root off. I better not. I'm just going to plant it with the cloth. I don't want to risk breaking the root off. If I had a lot of these, I might risk it, but I've only got 3 that germinated, so. Okay, so I'm planting this now. So the green is just sticking up like that. And I'll give that a good watering. All right, here I go with the water on that one. Okay, here goes number 3. So again, I'll dig a hole for it, put my cloth and everything in there, and then fill it back up. That should be good. Plant it in there nicely. All right, I'll water that. I find when the soil is brand new, it dries out quickly because it's not fully saturated. It takes a while for the water to soak in the clay particles and the perlite. So you got to water them a couple of times. Okay, that's good. I'll give my seeds a water and I'll cover them back up and put them back in the greenhouse. You never know. I mean, I had 2 yesterday and now I have 3, so I'll cover it back up and see if any more germinate. I'm going to put the Baobab seedlings back in the greenhouse now, and we'll keep track of them over the next few days and see how they do. Here's a look in the greenhouse. So I've got the 3 baobabs right here. You can see the green on them. And here. And here. So if they stay green for the next few days, that will be very good. Oh, I hope they make it. There's no movement on the cashews yet. Here's my other baobabs. They're growing nice and strong now. Trunks are thickening up on them too. So I should repot those soon. Get them into, separate them, get them into their own pot. The 2 pines are doing really well. There's that one, the new one, and here's the other one. So they're doing really well. I get a lot of people asking me about my Taprom Temple project. It's back here. You can see the cement. There it is. I don't have time to work on it right now. It's going to have to wait till next winter. It'll be another winter project, finishing that off. I did see a great big pot that would really fit that well. I saw it at Chris Hendry's and I thought, should I buy it now? And it was a lot of money. So I might buy that big pot for it. It would be like it's huge. It's like the square one that my Penjing is in, this city Penjing, but it's bigger. It's about another 1/3 bigger. So it's a great big flat, rectangular, shallow oval pot. So I think that would be good for the Taprom Temple planting. Yeah, so I might get that in the future. My Sarissa here is definitely getting new growth on it now. You can see all the little tiny leaves coming in. So I've pulled off a few of the really old ones. Like here's an old yellow one. These are indoor leaves. So I just pull them off. Here's another one that's kind of yellowy. Just making way for the new growth. I don't want any of these big older leaves on the tree. I want them to be all new. New and improved. Yeah, so that's coming out quite nicely. I don't think it'll be long before it's lush and green once again. And it's got that new pot coming for it, which will be very, very exciting. Why is his mouth open? Is he just hot?
Maybe.
Or did you eat something big? Hey?
My strawberries.
Were you eating strawberries? Hi, quackers. Look how big you're getting. Hey, hey. I had a really fun afternoon working on the rosemary and the baobab trees. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.